Hello and welcome to Little Learners. In today's video I'm going to be talking to you about EAL, English as an Additional Language. This is also sometimes referred to as ESL, English as a Second Language, and EFL, English as a Foreign Language. Ever since I started this channel I've had lots of requests to do videos on EAL, but I was a bit apprehensive because I'm no expert. However, I have taught children with EAL and I have learnt a lot along the way. I'm still getting lots of requests, so I thought I would make a video about what I know, and also I will link in the description box below some resources in case you want to learn anything else. I'll be making 3 videos, so this one is all about understanding the different stages of EAL and what children go through when they are learning English. The second video will be about how to help children at each one of those stages. And the third video will show you some activities that you can do with children who have EAL. Before we get started, don't forget to click that like button if you do find this video helpful, as it really helps out the channel. I'm going to go through 4 stages of learning English to kind of try to break up the learning journey that children with EAL go through. So the first thing to remember is that children with English as an additional language will all be at different levels of this. So you might have children who are fluent in English, even though it's not their first language. You may have children who are learning English, but they have good understanding and they can speak, but may have grammatical errors. You may have children who are just starting out learning English and know a few words. And you may have children who know absolutely no English. It can be really helpful for a teacher or practitioner to know if English is spoken at home. Most of the time, the children who I have had who have EAL and don't speak a lot of English when they first come to me don't speak English at home. So school is really the only time that they are exposed to the English language. So let's talk about stage 1, children who are brand new to English. Very early on in this stage, children are usually silent, non-verbal. Depending on the child, their age, the support that they receive, this stage can last quite a long time or a shorter period of time. It really does just depend on the child. A lot of the time children at this stage will just be observing. Things can be very overwhelming for them because they are just in an environment where they know none of the language. If you think about if you've ever been on holiday and you've been in a place where everyone is speaking a different language to you and you have no idea what's going on, that can be quite unnerving. So at this point children will be just observing what's going on around them, trying to pick up words and really developing their understanding. So even though they may be silent, non-verbal, they will still be engaging in what's going on. They'll be watching, listening and exploring, so it's important to look out for that. Don't just think because the child isn't speaking that they aren't engaging in what's going on. Even if they are just watching what is happening, that is really important. Children will be able to understand more than they can say. So you may be able to ask the child a simple question and they may respond by shaking or nodding their head. So this will show you that they understand a lot of what you're saying, but they're not at the stage yet where they can reply to you in English. As we move through this stage, we get to kind of the middle part of it where children start to know 1 or 2 words. They use simple words to convey what they're trying to say. They practice vocabulary that they are familiar with. They may start repeating and copying phrases that they hear a lot, like lunchtime, toilet, playtime, and start to assign meaning to those words. Then they'll become familiar with kind of bigger chunks of speech, so maybe mummy comes soon. Then when they are engaging in songs and stories that have repetition in them, they might start joining in. And then they might start using words to refer to more than one thing. So if they are playing with a car and they are making the car drive along, they might say car. If they are then lifting the car up in the air, they might still just say car. If they are getting a different colour car, they might just still say car. But you can see that they are trying to engage in the language and use what language they know to talk about what they are doing. Then as we get to the end of stage 1, children start putting together words to make phrases, and they're constructing these on their own rather than just repeating ones that they've heard. They want to get their meaning across, but of course the sentence may not completely make grammatical sense. So for example, you might get a sentence like, me play friend, and you know that they want to go outside and play with their friend. You will also see children using non-verbal gestures to accompany what they're trying to say. So they might point, they might wave, and this will help them to really get across what they're trying to say and clarify meaning. So moving on to stage 2, when children are becoming more familiar with the English language. This is where children have more confidence using English and start to use longer sentences and phrases, but still, the important part is getting across meaning, so the sentences won't always make sense. But you'll be able to work out what they're trying to say. Children may start using structures of their home language with English. So, for example, if you've ever learnt another language, you will know that different languages have different grammar and different rules to them. For example, in Spanish, if you were going to say the red car, the way that you would structure that would be the car red in Spanish. So if a child, for example, speaks Spanish as their first language, they may start using that type of grammar with English. They may also mix words from their home language and with English and try to construct sentences using words from both languages. Children may start to use descriptive language now and get more familiar with how to ask questions. Rather than using a statement, they will start using question words like why, what, how. Children may also start to retell stories, memorise what has happened in a story, and use props to be able to tell the story. Next we move on to stage 3, and this is when children are confident users of English. They're using larger, grammatically correct sentences, they understand most instructions and don't need visual clues anymore. They can get across meaning effectively and can give explanations about things that have happened. And then finally we get to stage 4, where children are fluent in most situations. This is the stage where their use of English is really comparable to a child who has been speaking English as their first language, so they are pretty much fluent. They may still encounter some barriers because they haven't heard certain words before, just like any child who is learning language for the first time. If they are in a situation they are unfamiliar with, that might then make it more difficult for them to get their meaning across because they're not quite sure about the language to use, but in most situations they will be fluent in English. So I hope that was helpful. That's kind of the 4 stages that you might see with children who have English as an additional language. Of course, as I said at the beginning of this video, children will be at different points throughout their learning journey with English, but kind of being able to know where they are and identify what part of which stage they're at can be really helpful. In my next video, I'll be talking to you about how you can support children at each stage. Of course, it's really important to remember that all children are different. They will have different experiences, they will be exposed to English in different ways and at different times, so the timeline for how children move through stages can be very different for each child. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up as it really helps out the channel, and if you want to see more videos like this, do click the subscribe button and turn on post notifications by clicking the bell so you never miss a future video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.